Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Bob McKillop Show, presented by OrthoCarolina. I'm John Kilgo with the head coach of the Davidson Wildcats. And Coach, a very nice week for the Wildcats. Duquesne, Fordham, both wins. Start with Duquesne. What did you like?
A sensational evening, honoring Stephen Curry, bringing him back here and dedicating the student section. And how appropriate is that? And to see him and his family and some of his teammates here, and the gracious and classy way in which he spent so much of his day before a game against the Hornets here at Davidson. I think he arrived coming from Charlotte Christian at maybe 7:30, 7:40, and I was with him until maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. So he was here for a good 5 hours.
Full house, packed house for that game. Tickets were at a premium. And,
amazing how
you know that, don't you?
You know, he's been able to do that here before.
Yes, he has.
But here he wasn't even in uniform, and yet he still could draw a packed house.
Does that, you're sitting there and you see that full house, Steph's in the house, some of his Golden State Warrior teammates were also in the house. I'm thinking if I'm a Davidson basketball player, I may be feeling a little pressure. I don't want to lose this game.
Well, Jack Gibbs somehow doesn't have that same sense that you might have. Last year he was at our game against Charlotte, and Jack, I think, had 41 points maybe.
Yep.
And this particular game, Tuesday night against Duquesne, he was sensational.
39-16 at the half, Coach. Davidson had the lead over Duquesne. What was it in the first half that made the defense so stifling?
We made their first pass difficult. We were aggressive as soon as they crossed half court. And we felt we've played on our heels defensively for too many possessions this year. And we really hammered that point home. And it was in clear evidence on Tuesday night.
You know, they charged in the second half. You knew they were going to make a run. They charged in the second half, got close, 4 or 6, I forget exactly which. And that's not easy to stop a team that's on a roll with confidence, is it?
No, and they're a very good team, vastly improved from last year. Now, the roster has changed dramatically, but they're a team that's going to, I think, create some noise in this conference as we continue through the month of February. And it's interesting how the game is so explosive. In 3 possessions, they get a 3, a 3, and a 2, and all of a sudden, that double-digit lead is now in single digits. And there's sort of a mindset that coaches have. When you got that double-digit lead, you're feeling comfortable. But my goodness, when it gets into single digits and you had that double-digit lead for a significant amount of time, there's some danger there.
The Wildcats, they stopped that rally by Duquesne, went on to win 74-60, and then off to Fordham on Saturday. Fordham came here and beat Davidson. I know that you felt that they got into you a little bit defensively in the game here. What changed up there?
They're one of the better defensive teams in the country. I think they forced more turnovers than any other team. And what changed was that we became simplistic in our approach. We let our players play without any kind of quick hitters, set plays. We just played based upon our 7 keys and our 5 fundamental rules of offense.
And Coach, what an offensive game for Jack and Peyton, 28 each.
They were very, very efficient with their shooting, with their handling, with their screening, with their dribbling. And we as a team had 26 baskets, and 23 of them had assists, so that's a pretty darn good percentage.
Especially on the road.
And especially against a team that is as frenetic with their defense as Fordham is.
Coach, 17 out of 29 threes.
Pretty spectacular shooting, and what was interesting to me was it came from 7 different guys.
Beautiful win for Davidson on the road against Fordham, a team that won here. That's the way it is in good conferences. No game can be taken for granted. Coach McKillop and I come back, and you'll meet Davidson player Will McGarity right after this. Welcome back, everybody. One of the main cogs in this Davidson basketball team this year is a transfer from Boston College, Will McGarity. by NCAA rules. He had to sit out last season, practice with the team. This year he's back, and Coach McKillop using him in many different roles. And Coach, what about Will? What do you think?
Well, we knew there was going to be some assimilation process because of sitting out the year and adapting to a whole new style of play. When you're redshirt, you don't have that same kind of microscope on you, and you don't get the same repetitions and go through the same routine. So the rust was there early on in November, December, early January. Slowly but consistently, that rust is starting to erode. And without doubt, he had his best performance at Fordham on Saturday. The numbers don't tell you the story of Will McGarrity's presence. His defense was as good a defensive performance by a front court player that we have had here in many years. And Thomas Sanders, the guy that I always reference as the general of our defense, Will McGarrity certainly played that way on Saturday.
Jared Latch of our radio staff had this opportunity to sit down and talk about basketball with Will McGarrity.
I'm happy now to be joined by junior Will McGarrity on this week's Players segment here on the Bob McKillop Show. And Will, thanks so much for being here. And the first thing, a transfer. You had opportunities probably to look at other schools. Why did you choose Davidson?
Well, it's a long story, but when I was in the midst of transferring, and me and my parents were looking at different schools, I had heard a lot about Davidson. A lot of people in my family are involved with basketball, with coaches and such. So, and they'd always been saying, hey, Davidson is a really good program, really nice school. So when I was contacted by Coach and the coaching staff, I jumped on the opportunity to come down here as my first visit. And I was not expecting it to be what it was, especially, with the guys on the team. They really just brought me in, and I think in a matter of 20 minutes, I knew this is where I was going to come. And that night, it's funny, Jack Gibbs, he told me, you're coming here. 2 days later, I called Coach and I said, I would like to attend Davidson because it really felt like home.
Now, you have to sit out that year, which had to be tough. You got to practice, you got to get ready. You're finally out there this year. What has this experience been with a collective group of guys that you're going through a year with?
Well, last year was really mentally tough because I was working out with them, with my brothers every day, but I couldn't be on the court and fight with them. So that was very frustrating, and one of the hardest things I had to go through in my transfer year. And then the difference this year is really being able to be out there and fight with them, and the process is different because practice is practice. The games is really where it happens. Obviously, a lot of work, a lot of our time and effort goes into practice. It's nonstop for us, really. But it's on the court against the opponent. That's when our true colors show.
A coach is known for having an international flavor to his roster. 6 international players on this year's team. What is that like for you? Is that nice to have guys from around the world?
It wasn't necessarily in my thought when I was coming here. I didn't think about, this is a very international school and an international team. However, it's really opened my mind in terms of accepting other people, not just from different countries, but also we have players from different states too. So we get a lot of different people, a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different ideas, and it's easy to we learn from each other, and I think that really represents our program and how we think and how the program thinks as a whole. We're very accepting of people, and we try to be the best people that we can be.
Now, quickly, in a succinct answer, what is something that you enjoy doing that someone wouldn't know about Will McGarrity?
Oh, wow. Well, me and a couple of friends on the team, we just started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I probably shouldn't say that, but, I enjoy it a lot.
Well, Will, thanks for spending some time with us. We're going to send it back over to John Kilgo for more here on the Bob McKillop Show.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Coach Bob McKillop Show. Each week, the Davidson basketball Twitter account requests submissions for the social segment using the hashtag AskMcKillop. And Coach, you got a couple of questions here from your fans. Seth from Richmond, Virginia. How much time is spent on recruiting during the regular season?
We have daily meetings that are generally structured towards game preparation, logistics of practice, and in those daily meetings, we'll have maybe a 5-minute segment on recruiting, a 10-minute segment, and then there'll be one complete recruiting meeting per week. And so the amount of time we discuss it, at least 1 full hour per week. The amount of time we invest in terms of going recruiting, kind of extraordinary. We lost to LaSalle last Thursday in Philadelphia, or Wednesday, whenever it was in Philadelphia. I flew to California in Saturday morning and watched the game Saturday afternoon, and then flew home Saturday night. Yesterday, Will Regal was in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, and on Saturday, right after the Fordham game, he quickly hurried over to see a high school game near the Bronx. So Will covered 2 days of recruiting in that weekend visit that we took up to Fordham. So you see that there is ins and outs of recruiting. We never will sacrifice our own team's welfare for recruitment. We focus on the guys that we have here because we're committed to them. And we will continue to show that commitment by being at practice every day and being at film session as a complete staff.
Coach Andy from Davidson. It used to be, I can remember the time when coaches didn't want basketball players around weights and strength, not conditioning. But Andy from Davidson wants to know what kind of an impact Coach Honeychuck and the strength and conditioning staff has made in this program.
He's a vital assistant coach of ours. Greg Honeychuck puts in the hours that are extraordinary. He has our players' confidence. He's very learned in his knowledge of strength and conditioning, and he knows our players and their personalities. So that combination of gifts makes him such a valuable and vital member of our team. And our players reflect that in the significant improvement that they show with their strength and the maintenance of their strength throughout the year.
He's almost like a tailor in a way, isn't he, Coach? He designs different programs to benefit different players.
Certainly is, and he doesn't just take care of the suit, he takes care of the shoes and the tie and the shirt as well.
Well, obviously, it's changed in basketball because it used to be that they didn't, you didn't want bulk. You thought that would hurt your shooting, but now all that's changed.
I used that as a belief of mine, and that's why I never lifted, or I resisted lifting weights, because it was going to affect my shot, which was already broken. So I don't know why I didn't lift, but clearly that was a statement that was handed down from coach after coach, decade after decade in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
It's interesting too, Coach. It wasn't just basketball, but it was other sports like golf and stuff like that. You see a guy like Tiger Woods come on and change the whole outlook of what golfers, they're athletes now.
Oh, they sure are, and I think the athlete has to train the full body, and you have to include nutrition and sleep as well.
Coach Bob McKillop talking basketball with you, and we're going to do more of that when we come back right after these messages. Welcome back to the Bob McKillop Show, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. Coach, you have a good many coaches that came off your staff, now head coaches at different programs. I know you taught basketball with them, but during the season, do you do that, or is that an off-season thing?
During the season as well as off-season. I spoke, in fact, to Landry Kosmalski for maybe 15, 20 minutes today. They had a loss on Saturday night, and he was discussing how they can adjust their practice schedule when they have back-to-back games. Mm-hmm. Matt Matheny and Jim Fox and Jason Zimmerman are in close touch all the time. And we even stay in touch with coaches who are no longer coaching, like Steve Sharina. So it's a family affair. Those guys will always wear Davidson on their heart, in my judgment, and they all made such vital and significant contributions to put our program where where we are right now.
It's interesting how much you can learn in these conversations of you and the assistants.
It really is, because there's, first of all, a foundation of trust. There's no private agenda there in all of our conversations. It's how can we all get better? How can I help you get better? How can you help us get better? And that's the thrust of the conversation. And whether it's a word of support in the tough time, or it's a word of congratulations in a joyful time, we have quite a close-knit relationship with all of our former assistant coaches.
Also, Coach McKillop's teams have been good road teams. Characteristically, Coach, you've been good on the road. It takes a special mindset in college basketball, especially, to play on the road and win. What does it take to be a good road team?
Well, that has become increasingly more challenging as we've moved into the Atlantic 10 because of the venues that we compete in. And I really believe that your energy level is so important, because the road can wear you out. I also believe that it has to be business as usual. You can't address the concerns of being on the road. You have to make it as a normal routine as possible. And then, of course, you have to give them confidence, and you can do that by having good practices, but also resurrecting memories of what we've done here in the past. And you know, we're nuts coaches. You know, if we stay in the same hotel and we lost in that hotel the last time we played there, we should change hotels.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no doubt about that.
It's nuts.
Coach, when you pick up a stat sheet at the end of a game, what are you looking for, or what line on that stat sheet tells you a story?
So many lines jump out at me. Immediately, I look at shooting percentages for them and for us. Then I filter my way down to number of rebounds. Then I look at fouls that we committed, free throw percentage. So it's a comprehensive evaluation done in a very quick read after a game is over. And then, of course, when they're all assembled that night, when Joey Beeler in the Sports Information Office sends me the updated statistics, I peruse through that and analyze how our players are evolving. Are they showing improvement? Are they digressing? Have they become hot as shooters? Are they getting fouled enough? What about their own foul trouble? So there are so many different statistical weapons that we are able to use based upon stat sheets.
Well, we're heading into February. That's part of what they call dog days of basketball. Coach McKillop comes back, another busy week for the Wildcats. We'll talk about it right after this. Welcome back, everybody. As we said, dog days of basketball in February, long season. The Wildcats coming off the road game against St. Joseph's take on Rhode Island, another really talented, tough team, Coach. Blackout night at Belk on Friday night.
And should be an outstanding crowd. Danny Hurley is a good friend. As you may remember, we recruited him when he was a high school player, and has been close with me ever since, and his whole family has been close with me. So it'll be a competitive game, a challenging game, and of course they were top 25 early on in the season, and they have one of the greats in the conference, E.C. Matthews, leading the way for them.
Coach, we talk about the coaches refer to this sometime as the dog days of February. When you get into this part of the season, how do you keep your team refreshed, excited, eager to play?
I don't believe there are this same experience with football. We are now in a 2-semester environment in basketball, and since we start on October 1st, now we're in the 5th month, and that's a pretty extended period of time. You cut back on the amount of time you practice. You cut back on the amount of video you show. Everything is more designed towards the individual. So you spend a little bit more time developing individual players and a lot less time with team practice as a whole. So the 2-hour and 15-minute practice gets shrunk basically to 75 to 90 minutes.
I know one of your admonitions, let's get better today, to your team. Are you pleased with the improvement this team has shown?
I think our team gets better because they work so hard in practice. They're so attentive in the film room. They continue to work in the weight room. So the repetition after repetition after repetition gets them better. And we don't deviate much from what we decide to do in October. So it's a consistent message and a consistent technique and a consistent strategy that they're experiencing day after day.
Davidson and Rhode Island, Belk Arena on Friday night, Blackout Belk. Ought to be a tremendous basketball game. We hope to see you there. And Coach, good luck on a busy week of Davidson basketball.
Thank you, John.
See you here next week.